Today, we are going to learn about the famous story of a young French woman who was the sole survivor of Yemenia Flight 626. Bahia Bakari was born on the 15th of August in the tiny town of Evry-Essonne near Paris, France. She was the oldest of four siblings. On the day of 30th of June, Bakari and her mother, Aziza Abado, were traveling to Comoros for a summer vacation. Like many of the passengers of Yemenia Flight 626, they began their voyage from Paris, France on Yemenia Flight 749, an Airbus A330-200 which made an intermediate stop in Marseille and then landed in Sana'a, Yemen. There, the passengers boarded Flight 626, an Airbus A310-324, for the flight segment to Comoros with a stop in Djibouti. As it descended for its approach, minutes away from its final destination of Prince Said Ibrahim International Airport, the jet plunged into the ocean 9 miles north of the coastline of Grande Comore Island, breaking apart as it hit the water at approximately 1:50 a.m. Bakari was ejected from the plane as it crashed, and found herself floating alone outside amid debris. Bakari reported having no life jacket and only minimal swimming skills, but she managed to hold on to a piece of fuselage wreckage. One night elapsed before her rescue. She reported later that initially there must have been other survivors, as she could hear them after the crash, but later the voices became silent. The next morning, Bakari came to realize she was alone at sea. Having been drifted for hours without food and water, she also reported having seen a ship on the horizon that was too far away to take notice of her. Since the Comorian government has no ships of its own, it asked all commercial and private vessels to help in the search and rescue effort. At approximately 11 local times, about 9 hours after the crash, the Simacom 2, a privately owned ship which normally carries passengers between Comoros and the neighboring island of Madagascar, arrived at the crash site and discovered Bakari as the sole survivor among bits of floating wreckage. As soon as Bakari was sighted, a member of the rescue team threw her a life preserver, but the waters were too rough, and she was too exhausted to grab it. One of the sailors, Machari Selemani Libuna, jumped into the water and handed her a flotation device, after which they were both pulled safely aboard the Simacom 2, where she was given dry blankets and a hot drink. Ibrahim Abdallah, another sailor on the Simacom 2, recalled Bakari's recovery. When the girl saw us approaching, she let go of the piece of debris she had been using as a life preserver. Suddenly, a large wave flipped her over and she disappeared from view until she reappeared a few minutes later. It was at this exact moment that Macharafi jumped into the water to save her. The ship arrived in Port Moroni at 1925 local time, where Bakari was handed over to medical authorities and taken to a local hospital. The next day, Bakari was transported back to Paris on a private French government Falcon 900 jet escorted by Cooperation Minister Alain Girondet, who called her survival a true miracle. Upon arrival, she was reunited with her father and other family members, and taken by ambulance to the Armand Trousseau Children's Hospital in eastern Paris, where she was admitted and diagnosed with a fractured pelvis and collarbone, burns to her knees, cuts, bruises, and exhaustion. One of her first visitors in the hospital was then French President Nicolas Sarkozy, who reported promised to host her and her family at the Elysee Palace. Soon afterwards, she was informed of her mother's death. She was released 3 weeks later after undergoing treatment and surgery. According to Aviation Safety Network's database, Bakary is a survivor of the deadliest sole survivor ocean crash and the second deadliest sole survivor crash ever. The only other sole survivor crash that was deadlier is the Northwest Airlines Flight 255 in 1987, in which 156 were killed, including 2 on the ground. Investigators would later determine that the cause of the accident was a pilot error due to the approach being unstabilized and the flight crew's inappropriate responses to the ground proximity warning system and stall warnings. Bahia Bakary was soon discharged from the hospital and had a normal life.